Welcome to Encouragement Notes, the place where you find out who God created you to be. I created this podcast to share my journey in life and in my disability acceptance. Thank you so much for listening. Let's get started. Hey, I hope all is going well and you're having a beautiful, blessed day. Today I want to hang out with you and talk about the movie Out of My Mind. This movie is about a girl who has CP, and her CP affects her way to physically communicate. So she's physically nonverbal, but nobody is nonverbal ever. Like, everybody could figure out a way to talk, whether it's sign language or an iPad. So nobody should be considered nonverbal and that be the end of it. But Melody is physically nonverbal, and she has cerebral palsy, as I stated before. And at this point in time, we are in 2002, and she is in 6th grade. And she wants to navigate her way through late elementary school, early junior high. And she comes up against a lot of things that as disabled people we come up against. People second guessing what we could do, and even second guessing if we could communicate at all. This movie is so bad. Like, it's not a bad movie, but I would venture, and I think I'm going to title this episode "So Bad It's Good," because this movie talks about how people with disabilities often get second guessed because of the way they look and because of the equipment they may have to use. And Melody is a very, very bright young lady who knows her stuff. And I would cuss on this podcast, but I'm not going to. But she totally does know her stuff. And she knows more at times than her peers. And she gets accused of getting too much extra help from her PCA, from her aide. And her abilities just get overlooked. And I have to be honest, I went through that. I went through that in high school and in junior high. Mostly in junior high. I remember being part of a general education history class, because at that time history was one of my strongest subjects. And in this particular history class, when I was in 8th grade, we sat in teams representing the government. So I once sat at like the Secretary of State's table, and then for half of the semester I sat at the president's table. And when I sat at the president's table, or when I sat at both tables actually, what happened was we would take the test in teams. And whatever we got as a team, that was our individual grade for that test. And things got so bad within that class, in the environment for me, that often my answers that I had and the information that I had written down in my notes, because these were open book tests, would get overlooked. And because my answers would get overlooked, my grades would be the grade that I had to take for the test because the team chose a different answer than what I had. And that really, back then, it really hurt my feelings. But as I grew older, it taught me a lot about advocating for yourself and trying to get your point across, because ultimately what ended up happening is my teacher very much believed in my strengths and what I could do. But he came up to me and he was like, I don't think this class is the right class for you because nobody is paying attention to you. So what ultimately ended up happening is that I ended up having to transfer out of this class into a special education history class. And my teacher was very, very nice, and I really liked her. She was one of the coolest teachers on campus. But it ultimately hurt my feelings because I wasn't given the chance to prove what I could do. So I ultimately had to do my best work in that other class. But my point in making this podcast episode is that nobody should ever second guess somebody else. Ask questions that are timely, respectful questions, but nobody should ever second guess somebody else. Anyways, you guys, that was just on my mind. I may have done this episode before because I've seen this movie before, but we will call this what I love to call a live rerun. And I will talk to you guys later. I love you. Have a beautiful, blessed day. God bless. Bye-bye.